Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar from Mass CEC's Catalyst and InnovateMass program. Today we're joined by Michelle from MPTC and Marina from Mass CEC. So my name is Cece and I'm the investment analyst at Mass CEC. I support 5 of the programs that you currently see on this slide, so I'll quickly walk you through all of them, all of the acceleration programs we have at Mass CEC for clean tech startups other than Catalyst and InnovateMass. So for research teams, in addition to Catalyst, we also have an Amplify Mass program that provides cost share to federal and non-federal prime awards from $5,000 to $500,000. It has a rolling deadline, so you may apply whenever you're ready. And then as your company progresses and your technology matures, you can look at AccelerateMass, which provides $150,000 in convertible notes through a competitive solicitation. And AccelerateMass is for graduates of eligible accelerators, and you can find the list of the eligible accelerators on our website when we launch our solicitation next week on October the 6th. And then when companies achieve commercialization, you can apply for DeployMass, where Mass CEC will find a public entity to be your first customer, and we will also fund the project. In addition, Mass CEC also provides equity investments and venture debt. We generally invest from seed round to Series B, and we have also led rounds before. Our venture debt programs is generally for companies that are more mature. Lastly, we also fund internships through our workforce development program for companies of all stages. If you have any other questions about these programs in the future, feel free to contact me or Marina, and our emails are on the screen. Now I'll pass the mic to Michelle, and she will talk you through Catalyst in more detail. Hi, Michelle.
About the Mass CEC Catalyst program, and this program is to help commercialization of technology coming out of early stage companies or research institutions. And we fund proof of concept projects, for example, making of prototypes or third-party testing, or you can develop a better user phase for your technology. The goal is to have the awardees attract follow-on funding once the project is completed. And this is a no strings attached grant program. You will be required to submit 2 reports. But other than that, if there's any IP that is founded or developed during the project, you're welcome to keep that. We're not tapping into that at all. It is a competitive process, and there's a multi-stage process that we go through, which I'll go through on the next slide. And we will be giving up to 14 grants over the course of the year. We'll give 5 to clean tech and 2 to water in the spring, and then we give the same in the fall as well. Now, the criteria for evaluation, the first is technology and technology merit in the stage of the technology. I will ask that please do not include any confidential information in your report. We do share it with reviewers, and they do not sign a non-disclosure form, so do not include anything that you do not want spread out to the public. The next is the commercialization or market potential. We also grade on project plan, and we're looking for projects that will make an impact. And again, we want you to get you to a point, an inflection point, where something will happen after the project is done. So hopefully you will find a new partner or an investor that will invest into your company. We want something to happen at the end of the project. So the plan should be one that your customers or investors have been asking for. The next criteria is clean energy or energy impact. The company or institution needs to be based in Massachusetts. You do not need to be incorporated until there's an exchange of funds, so you can wait on that. Also, the majority of the company needs to be located in Massachusetts. You can have another section in another state or country, but the majority of the company needs to be in Massachusetts. And you'll also be judged on the team. The team needs to have 4 or fewer members full-time. So you could have 8 part-time members, each at 50%, or whatever adds up to 4 full-time team members. And then also you can have no more than $1 million in capital raised thus far. I also would remind people, if you're coming from a research institution, that you discuss your application with your grants and contracts office, because they will have some say in how you develop your budget. If you can move to the next slide. So this is the process. Right now we've already launched on September 11th, and applications are coming in. The applications are due on October 11th. And from there, we will go through all the applications and send them out to expert judges. The judges are members of your community. They are investors, they're academics, they're in industry. You will not know who the judges are, so please word your proposal in such a way that somebody would understand it if they're not exactly from your sector. From there, we have the finalists will be selected, and we'll select about 10 finalists for clean tech and about 5 finalists for water-related technologies. And those statuses will be announced in December. And from there, the ones who are picked for the finalists will receive a coaching session from the Mass Tech Transfer Center, and we'll invite you to come back in January excuse me, to give a presentation before another panel of judges. And from then, we will make our notifications in February of who won the awards. And these projects are to last between 6 and 12 months. Your projects can last as early as 6 months, but they must be completed within 12 months. We can go to the next slide. Yeah. So here's some success statistics that we've had. We've had a really successful program with this. Our reviewers have done a wonderful job picking some really key companies and researchers to invest in. We've had 15 rounds already, so we've done this for over 7 years, and we've had a return of about 50 times fold based on the amount of money that has been awarded and the amount that has been raised since they have gotten their money, which is pretty incredible. Some people ask how many applications we receive. We typically receive between 40 and 50 per round, and the breakup between that, we typically get more clean tech than water, but we are receiving a lot more water nowadays than we have when we first started. Go to the next one. And if anyone has any questions, type them into the right-hand side. Again, I'm just going to stress that please do not include any confidential information when you submit your application. And I would recommend, highly recommend, having a couple of people review your application before you submit it. I can't tell you how many times we've seen spelling errors, we've seen editing notes, we've seen everything. So if you just want a nice, professional, polished look, have a few people look it over before you submit it.
Okay, so we've been getting some questions here, and the first question we have is, can within Catalyst a company apply with a university as a team?
Yes. Yep. You would have to work out who owns the IP, but yes, that would be perfectly fine.
Okay. Seems like the other question we have are for InnovateMass, so we'll continue the presentation, and if anyone has questions, just keep typing them. And if you have questions about Catalyst, you can still type them, and we'll answer the questions by the end of the presentation.
All right, so Marina speaking here. So the InnovateMass program is geared towards accelerating the commercialization of Massachusetts clean energy technology. So the objective of the program is to support the deployment of new clean energy and water innovation technologies or innovative combinations of existing technologies that demonstrate a strong potential for commercialization. This round, the program's also offering a carve-out for robotics projects that, one, demonstrate innovations in a robot's energy supply and or storage system, and two, deploy robotics technology for clean energy applications. Applicants are expected to form a partnership which will allow the technology to be validated in a demonstration setting, including a project site. So the InnovateMass program has recently undergone some updates. The RFPs will now be released twice a year, in the fall and the spring, when previously it was only once per year in the fall. And the program now provides grants up to $250,000, and it was previously $150,000. And it still requires the 50% cost share requirement, and that is 50% of the grant amount, not the entire project cost. And 80% of this cost share can also be in kind. The program also offers third-party project management and technical support to all authorities to ensure that the projects are successful. The program technical consultant will meet regularly with awardees to review work plans, discuss and resolve technical and other project-related barriers, and also review performance monitoring and evaluation plans. So to be considered for the program, technologies must have a technology readiness level between 5 and 7. We provide a technology readiness level calculator on our website, and that can help you sort of calculate your TRL. So basically the idea behind InnovateMass is to fill a funding gap for early stage companies. So this is typically known as the valley of death. And our goal is to help startups bridge this gap and reach goals and milestones that will help them attract follow-on funding. The timeline for this round's application process is as follows. The solicitation, as you may know, was released this past Monday, September 25th. And questions about the RFP may be submitted through October 27th to my email. It should be listed on the screen here, and it'll also be listed on the final slide. We'll post answers to these questions in an FAQ section in the solicitation webpage after the deadline. And we will accept applications for the RFP through November 6th, and the deadline is 4 p.m. So after we receive these applications, there will be a multi-stage review process, and selected applicants will be invited to conduct an in-person pitch to a panel of judges. After the pitches, final reviews will be conducted, and awards will be announced over the winter. So here we have an example of a successful InnovateMass project, and it's the solar-powered streetlights installation in Somerville by a company called Solar One Solutions. So as you can see in the before photo on the top right, this section of Somerville's community bike path, which sees roughly 500 bike riders per day, was extremely dark, resulting in an unsafe environment for riders. Solar One Solutions collected real-one data and community feedback, and it partnered with Somerville to install their product on this section of the path, which, as you can see on the after photo on the bottom right, it is now well lit and much safer for night riding. So this project remains installed, and it's providing lasting benefits for the community. So we hope this webinar was helpful. If you have any questions about InnovateMass or Catalyst, please do reach out. The InnovateMass webpage can be found on our website, massec.com/InnovateMass. And you can also find our link on that page to our current solicitation. So thanks for your time. I guess we're going to take a look at the questions that are submitted here and proceed. So let's see. Can a company who was awarded the Catalyst grant and is currently underway in the Catalyst funded activity apply for InnovateMass?
So this is Megan Lefebvre. I'm a project manager at Mass CEC, and I manage our InnovateMass program. So Catalyst and InnovateMass are really designed for companies that are at different stages of technology development, and it is really atypical that we would award a Catalyst and an InnovateMass grant to a company at the same time. So we do have a lot of companies come through InnovateMass that have previously won a Catalyst award, but they generally need to have wrapped up that project in advance of applying to InnovateMass. And this really helps us ensure that, there's consistency between the projects, that all of the deliverables were met and the project is fully wrapped up before you're applying for another program. The one caveat to that is if you are applying for a different technology, so we do work with some companies that have multiple technologies that they're working on, so you could apply for the two programs for separate technologies at the same time. But if it is the same technology, we would want to see that the Catalyst project was wrapped up first.
Great. So if the tech developer is a company, can validation be carried out at a university, or is it supposed to be with another corporation?
So I believe this question was referring to InnovateMass. So yeah, we do have universities serve as partners on InnovateMass projects. That's totally fine.
for InnovateMass, I think the one, or not the only, but one of the key differences is that a project is typically led by a tech developer or a company rather than a university team, but we would certainly allow a university partner on a project, especially if it's for something like testing and data validation.
We're getting a couple questions here asking if we're going to be sending out a copy of these slides. Yes, we're going to be posting this webinar online on both of the solicitation pages. Someone here is asking about the timeline slide, so I'm going to go back to that right now and just put that on the screen so that you guys can reference that. But if you do need to see any of the other slides, again, this will be posted later. Let's see, next question. What are water technologies, and does this include water energy and clean water tech? Water technologies are basically any sort of clean energy related technology that involves water. It can be anything from wastewater treatment to hydropower. And in terms of the second part of the question, water energy and clean water tech, I'm taking that answer as yes.
Yeah, a lot of times we're looking for technologies that fit into the water energy nexus space, so that are improving energy use in water processes or functions, or vice versa. Michelle, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that.
No, I agree with that. And just because your technology has to do with water, it involves water, or is in water, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a water technology.
Okay. Next question. Can a product that is already holding a recently recorded patent apply for the grant to continue the forward movement towards commercialization?
So I'm not sure what program this is referring to, but Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but that wouldn't be a problem in either the case of InnovateMass or Catalyst. We've certainly had companies come through that have patented their technologies, but are working to further develop the technology.
Right, the money just can't be used for research. It has to be used for some proof of concept project.
Next question, can the project partner / host site satisfy the based-in-mass requirement? So this is recently something that's changed as part of some of the updates that, at least for the InnovateMass project, the program that we did recently. Previously, we did allow out-of-state companies to qualify as the based-in-mass thing with having a project partner or site in Massachusetts, but now we are restricting the program only to Massachusetts-based companies. So if you are an out-of-state company and you're trying to do the project in Massachusetts, that unfortunately does not make you eligible for InnovateMass.
However, we would allow projects that are Massachusetts-based companies working with a host site in another location that's outside of the state.
Right.
And as far as the Catalyst, you're welcome to use companies outside of the state.
Assuming our company has the matching resources and team capabilities for 2 InnovateMass projects, is it better to apply for one InnovateMass grant now and then another in the next cycle, or can we do both at once?
I mean, this is kind of a tricky question to answer. I think it really depends on, again, as you say, the company's bandwidth. We have never in the past received 2 applications from the same company at the same time, so it would definitely be something unique. We don't have any restrictions barring us from doing so, but I would just reiterate that it is a competitive program, and so we would definitely take that into consideration when we're making awards. We have a limited amount of funding to offer to companies, and so if there was a company that had 2 grant proposals on the table, we would have to consider that when we're looking against the pool of awards or of applicants.
Can you apply for the grant if you have a team that is smaller than 4 full-time employees for Catalyst and InnovateMass?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's the same for InnovateMass. Yeah, InnovateMass doesn't have any restrictions on company size or the amount of funding that you can have raised. Those requirements are for Catalyst only.
Someone's pointing out on the timeline slide that the yellow bullet point they think that the late fall 2017 is accurate. It is not going to take us a full year to review the applications and have awardees come in for a pitch. So pitches will happen for InnovateMass late this fall.
Yeah, it would be late fall or early winter. So we're really looking around a November to January timeline for those last two items.
Are awards in winter 2017 or 2018? Again, as Megan has just said, the awards will likely happen, December at the very earliest, but most likely sometime in January or February 2018.
Yeah, so winter 2018 refers to Q1 2018.
Yes, and that's the next question, so there you go. Do we also have an Accelerate program? Yes, Cece did mention that at the beginning, and I guess, Cece, if you want to say a couple of sentences about InnovateMass.
Yeah, sure. So InnovateMass, again, is for graduates for eligible accelerators. There is a list of the accelerators that we will post on October the 6th. You have to complete the accelerator within the calendar year. So either you've already completed the program within this year, or you will be graduating before December 31st. But if you have not graduated, say if you're graduating in December, but we are making our decisions in around November, December timeframe, the award is contingent upon your successful graduation. And the InnovateMass comes in two phases. So you'll apply for phase 1 first, which is a 50,000 convertible note. And after you've substantially completed your milestones for phase 1, you can then apply for phase 2, which is 100,000 in convertible note. And again, the solicitation opens on October the 6th, and the application is due November the 11th.
Another question here about the timeline. Again, reviewing and pitches will be happening late this year, and awards will be happening early next year. So apologize if the winter 2018 is confusing. Next question. Do you have to be incorporated as a company or part of an educational institution to apply?
If it's for Catalyst, you do not need to actually be formulated into a company until you have won the award and we're ready to transfer funds.
So for InnovateMass, again, there does have to be an entity that we're transferring funds to, and so typically that is a company at the time of the award. It's also, I think, the stage that companies are applying to InnovateMass. Usually the technology has gotten to a stage at that point where it is an incorporated company. Did you see the Sunrise question?
Oh, okay. We have received a Sunrise 2 challenge grant that we can apply. Can we apply for Mass CEC Innovate program? Not 100% sure.
Yeah, the question is a little unclear, but essentially, if you have received other grants, you can still apply for our innovation programs.
This next question is a little bit unclear also, but I'll read it out loud, and if you want to send some clarifications, please go ahead. As far as the $1 million limit, does that count for nonprofit university researchers? I'm assuming that's a Catalyst question. So
yes,
Michelle?
Yes, it does. Yes, for that particular project, funding for that particular project must be under $1 million.
So it looks like those are all the questions that we've received. I guess we'll wait a couple more minutes to see if any more questions keep rolling in, but otherwise we'll be wrapping up. And again, we will be posting this webinar so that you can reference it again online on both of these solicitation pages.
And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to email any of us.
And we'll be at Greentown Labs tomorrow. I forget what time. I don't know if someone can fill that in. And we'll also be at CIC next week on Thursday at 5:30.
Tomorrow the office hours should be, I'm assuming 12 to 2.
I believe 12 to 1:30 at Greentown Labs tomorrow. We'll be hosting office hours. We got another question on the InnovateMass cost-sharing policy. So our requirement is that the awardee provide an amount equivalent to 50% of the grant request in cost share. So as I mentioned, we do have a $250,000 cap on the grant request. So for example, if you request a $200,000 grant, we would require that you provide a minimum of $100,000 in cost share, because that's 50% of the grant request. As Marina mentioned, 80% of the cost share can be in kind. So typically in-kind cost share is referring to labor. And then 20% of the cost share amount must be in cash. So in that example, with a $200,000 grant, again, $100,000 in cost share from the awardee, and $80,000 of that cost share could be in the form of in-kind cost share, such as labor. 20% would have to be in the form of cash that the company or the partners on the project are contributing to the project.
So the next question we just received, are applications with multiple backers weighed more heavily for InnovateMass?
Does multiple backers, is that referring to partners, or like if companies that have investment? Could you just clarify that? Partners. It depends on the application. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily weighed more heavily, but we do look at the strength of the application team as an indicator of project success. So if we see that there is an application that has, really well-established partners that are heavily involved in the project, then that might indicate to our team that the project is likely to be successful. So I think, from that standpoint, we do look at it, but we don't assign like a specific weighting to the partnerships. In the cost share example, does that mean InnovateMass transfers $100,000, the company transfers at least $20,000 in cash, and up to $80,000 in kind? So for the cost share, there's no transaction that happens between MassDEC and the awardee. We provide the grant amount. So in the example, if we're providing a $200,000 grant, the applicant is essentially certifying that they're providing $100,000 in cost share. We do have a budgeting process that we go through. So, we look at the projected project costs and see if that all makes sense. And so the only transfer of funds that is happening is MassDEC will transfer the grant funds to the awardee. And that happens on a milestones and deliverables basis. So essentially at the start of the project, the company will work with our technical consultant to develop a work plan that will outline typically anywhere from 8 to 15 specific milestones that are related to the project, and milestones that are really demonstrating the progression of the project. And with each of those milestones, we have at least one deliverable associated with the milestone. And those deliverables are essentially evidence to MassDEC that that milestone was completed and that the project is continuing to move forward. So when we receive those deliverables in the work plan, we pre-allocate, typically the company kind of sets amounts dividing up that grant amount among those different milestones and deliverables. So for example, with a $200,000 grant, that's not all going to be granted at once. It's broken up over the life of the project, and again, is tied to the receipt of deliverables. And again, that's all outlined in the work plan at the outset of the project. We do not have any sort of formal transaction for the cost share, but with each invoice that is submitted for a grant payment, we ask that companies provide a cost share certification form, which is essentially certifying that they have provided the cost share as indicated on the initial work plan.
Okay, so the next question, Michelle, this one is a Catalyst one. The website says eligible applicants must either be a principal investigator at a Massachusetts-based nonprofit research institution or a Massachusetts-based early-stage clean energy company with no more than $1 million in combined financing. grant funding, and revenues within the past 5 years and have 4 or fewer full-time equivalent employees. Student teams are welcome to apply. So does that mean that this applies to university researchers?
Yes, they can apply, university researchers, if they have the principal investigator status. The student, this can also be student teams that can apply as well as if they have a principal investigator that is willing to oversee the project.
Okay, so it looks like that was all the questions. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. Yeah, if anybody else has any other questions after the webinar is over, feel free to reach out, as we said. I guess I'll put the end screen back up on the screen for another minute. And thank you so much for joining us on our webinar. And Michelle, I don't know if you have any other follow-on thoughts to say?
We look forward to receiving the applications.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and good luck with your application process.